everyone, my name is Amber, welcome back to my channel. I am obviously a booktuber and I have been around for a very long time. I first created my channel in November of 2010, which was right at the start of booktube. There were some channels who had been here before me. I think the earliest booktube channel I can specifically remember started around 2008, although undoubtedly there are more that I don't know of that started as soon as YouTube was created. But what I'm trying to say here is that I have been around for 12 years and I have seen a lot of book hype come and go, and I definitely fell prey to a lot of that hype in that I bought a lot of books because my booktube friends were talking about them. One day I do want to talk about the history of booktube and how it's evolved since I started, how the community has evolved, how other people's channels have evolved, and how mine has evolved as well. But this video is going to be talking about some hyped up books that I bought back in the day but didn't read because I buy books without reading them, and I'm going to be talking about whether or not they hold up, because I read all of these recently and a lot of them were quite terrible, let me just say that, but some of them did hold up and were actually quite good. I was actually going to do this as a kind of vlog style thing, and I managed it for the first couple of books, but then I was reading too quickly to actually vlog any of these, so I might do that in the future. Let me know if you would rather me do a sit down video like I'm doing now for future books, because I have a lot of them still on my TBR, or if you would prefer that I do a vlog style video as I read these books. I have 8 books here to talk about today, so I might as well get started. I don't really know which one I want to start with. The worst one. Let me just pick the worst one because it was honestly terrible. That is Generation Dead. This is a YA book about zombies. This came out I think in 2008 and I read it recently in January and I gave it 1 star. It was honestly appalling. So what this is about is the zombies have basically come back to life. They've risen from the dead. It's only happening to teenagers very specifically in North America, and no one really knows why. And so these undead teenagers are being reintegrated into schools because the government feel like they should be included, and zombies need an education, I guess. And the main character is called Phoebe. She is a goth girl, in case you couldn't tell by the cover. It's all the eyeliner, and she falls in love or gets involved with zombies. And that's all I think I really need to say. This book has a 3.6 average rating on Goodreads. It's got 12,800 and something ratings, so that's actually quite a few. I bought this one I think because I was getting really into the zombie craze. There was that zombie film that came out with Nicholas Hoult, which I think was called Warm Bodies. That's based on a book, and that got really big around the time that this came out, and so there was a massive rush of YA zombie books and everyone thought it was going to be the next big thing after the YA vampire craze. It wasn't, but this book is one of those that was trying to take advantage of that craze. Like I said, I hated this book when I read it in January, and I think I probably would have hated it at the time as well because there's no plot, it doesn't really go anywhere, the romance is boring, so I didn't like it. If you do want a good YA zombie book, in my opinion, from around that same era, I would recommend The Forest of Hands and Teeth by Carrie Ryan. That was a very good trilogy, and I think I would like it a lot more now, actually, than I did back then. So there's that one. That was rubbish. Let's put that away. Next, I read Stolen by Lucy Christopher, which was actually quite a good book. This one came out, I think, in 2009. I should probably check before I actually hold these books up. Yes, 2009. And this is YA contemporary. It's set in Australia. The main character was abducted from an airport and taken to the outback and held by her captive. And this book is basically told in letter format. It's all in second person as it's a letter to that guy who captured her. I really liked this one. I gave it 3 stars and I probably would have given it 4 at the time. At the moment, it's just a little bit too young for me, and it's probably obviously going to stay that way because I'm not getting any younger. I remember this book being absolutely huge. Everyone was reading it at the time, and I can't remember why I didn't pick it up back then. I was definitely more interested in fantasy in my youth though, so that's probably why. But this was a really good book and I was very impressed. I don't think the writing style is anything amazing. I think if this were to be published nowadays, it would be a lot darker and a much deeper look into the main character's psychology and mental health in terms of how she was being treated and how she's dealing with it afterwards. However, the author is bringing out an adult mystery thriller, which is a sort of companion sequel to Stolen, and I'm hoping it's going to address how the main character was feeling at the end of this and how her life has been changed by this man who took her to the outback and kidnapped her. I remember this was a huge book because everyone was talking about Stockholm Syndrome at the time, and then also relating this book to Twilight as well because of the whole abusive relationship between Edward and Bella. So that was a really interesting little connection there. So yeah, I did enjoy this one. I thought it was quite good and I would probably recommend reading it if you wanted to. I then have 3 books that I DNF'd because I just couldn't get into them. These came out during the whole YA paranormal craze and people were very excited for them. I don't think any of these were massive at the time, but they were definitely on a lot of people's radars. So the first one is Haunting Violet, and this is by Alexandra Harvey, who did a massive YA vampire series back in the day. I think she was quite young when she first got published, and she did My Love Lies Bleeding, which was very, very popular. I tried reading that one and I didn't enjoy it because it wasn't like Twilight. Twilight, in my opinion, at the time was a lot better. So this was the first in a series, and I DNF'd this one because I just couldn't get into it. I didn't really like the writing style. It's a ghost story basically set in England in the late 1800s, I think. While I don't think this is a bad book, it just definitely wasn't a book for me. Maybe other people would enjoy this, especially nowadays. Maybe a younger audience would like it if they're trying to get more into YA paranormal. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I don't think it really feels as though it's kind of the time, so it could hold up nowadays. But yeah, it just wasn't one for me and my reading tastes. This next one that I DNF'd is called Vesper by Jeff Sampson. So this was blurbed by Michael Grant, the author of Gone, his wife, Kate A. Applegate, who is the author of Animorphs, or some of the Animorphs books, and Lauren Kate, who is the author of Fallen, which was about fallen angels, which is a massive series. So I think the publisher was expecting this one to do really well. It only got 3,600 ratings though, so it got way less than Generation Dead. It's got a 3.6 average rating, and like I said, I didn't finish this one. It's about a girl called Emily who seems to absorb other people's personalities when they die, and they're also called Emily. I can't remember what the actual kind of hook for this book was. I think my issue with this one was the pacing. It was a very, very slow start and I just couldn't get into it. I'm looking at some of my friends' reviews now, and a lot of them did give it 2 or 3 stars. It seems that most people found it quite boring. Some people liked that Emily had 2 different personalities. I personally didn't, and that was the main point of the book, so that's probably why I didn't get on with this one. A lot of the top reviews though are 1, 2 or 3 stars, or DNFs, the ones who aren't my friends. So yeah, I don't think this one holds up very well at all. I don't think it held up to begin with, so yeah, I DNF'd that one. The next and last one I think that I DNF'd was Darkness Becomes Her. This one again is YA paranormal. The main character has some sort of paranormal secret, and that's all I really knew about this one. I think it's kind of going for a Greek mythology Medusa kind of retelling, at least that's what I'm getting from this cover. What I mainly didn't like about this one was that it was set in futuristic New Orleans. I think it was trying to do too much with the futurism and the paranormal stuff and the Greek mythology. I think the author maybe could have focused on just 2 of those things and gone from there. It's a very short book, so I could have finished it, but to be honest, I just was not enjoying it. I didn't like the writing style, so I DNF'd it. I don't think it would hold up nowadays. I don't think anyone's going to pick this one up in the future. Next, I do have one that I actually quite enjoyed comparatively, and that is Wicked Lovely. This is a fairy story. The main character in this one can see and speak to invisible fairies, and these fairies are trying to get the main character involved in their scheme. I can't remember exactly what the scheme was. Something to do with the Summer King and the Summer Queen or something, of the fairy courts. It's basically your standard fairy story that Sarah J Maas has taken and run with. I don't really have anything bad to say about this. I gave it 3 stars. It was enjoyable, it was readable. This is very random, but I really like the font of this edition. I don't know, very easy to read, and I remember everyone was obsessed with this one when it first came out. I think Melissa Marr might be self-publishing a bunch of stuff now, because she's definitely not traditionally publishing. Let me have a look. This one had very, very pretty Girl in a Dress US covers, and then the UK cover did this, which is questionable. But this one does have a 3.69 average rating, 162,000 ratings on Goodreads, which tells you how popular it was at the time. This came out, I think, in 2008, roughly. I did say that I would look this up before telling you things. 2007, and there are like 5 books in the series or something, and they were very, very popular. So when I joined, the series was just wrapping up, and that's why I wanted to get involved in this hype, because everyone was talking about the final books in the series and how excited they were for their ship to happen. I don't know if there was a main ship like Edward and Bella. There could have been, but I wasn't involved. And I bought this one secondhand because I wanted to get involved with the hype, but I just didn't read it in time. I think if I were to read this now as a teenager, I probably wouldn't love it, but I wouldn't hate it either. I'd probably give it 3 or 4 stars. One book that I really did not like though was Wake by Lisa McMahon. This is the first book in a trilogy, and it's about a main character who can basically dream walk, and that sounds really, really intriguing to me even now. I thought this was going to be absolutely epic when I first bought it, because again, it came out, the first one, this Wake, came out in 2008, so the final book in the series would have been coming out around the time that I started Booktube, and everyone was talking about it. Everyone was also talking about Lisa McMahon's other series, which I think was called Crash or Burn, or one of the 2, and I loved the concept of this one. So as you can see, I bought the hardback. I can't remember where I got it from, maybe eBay or something, because it's definitely the US edition. I just really didn't like it. The writing style was awful, absolutely atrocious. The sentences were very abrupt. The dialogue was cringy. It didn't feel like dialogue at all. It was just overall a very bad book, and I don't know if the series gets better. I doubt it, but I don't want to find out because, yeah, like I said, I gave it 1 star. Oh, I gave it 2 stars on Goodreads, but I think it deserves 1. I'm just looking at my friends' reviews. One person loved it. Most people gave it 2 or 3 stars, I think. I think a lot of people liked it because it's very fast-paced and very easy to read, but upon further analysis from me, the reason it's really easy to read and really quick is because the sentence structure is so short and abrupt, and I don't think that's a very well-written book, so yeah, didn't like that one at all. This last one was very middle of the road for me. I liked it, I didn't hate it, but I won't be continuing with the series, and that is Fury by Elizabeth Miles. This is set in a small town. The main characters come across the Furies, who are trying to make people get revenge, basically. I did like this one, actually. I gave it 3 stars when I read it back in February, maybe? I read it in just a couple of hours because it was very, very fast-paced. This one also in the US had a lovely girl in the dress cover, and then the UK did this, which I was very, very unhappy with. It's another one that's blurred by Lauren Kate, the author of Fallen. I love that she was just everywhere and now she's kind of vanished. This was one of the first books I remember being pitched as by a debut author and the next big thing. I'm really into supporting debut authors, and I think that's kind of influenced by publishing, obviously, but it never used to be a big thing for book bloggers to promote debut authors all that much. But this is one of the ones that I remember seeing everywhere, and the publisher and all the publicists were all talking about how this author was going to be the next big thing. I don't actually know if she's done anything else. Let's have a look. I'm just looking at my friends' reviews. Actually, a lot of people did give it 3 or 4 stars, but then the odd 1 star is in there as well. I can see why people wouldn't love it. Some people say that it was intense toward the end. Some things need to be fleshed out. There's a lot of cheating. Yeah, there is. Some people didn't really know what the plot was, and the plot does actually take a weird turn about halfway through. I don't really know what the author was going for, but maybe she was just trying to desperately set up the trilogy. I don't know, but in terms of does it hold up now, I think it probably would. I think teen readers might enjoy it if they were on the younger side, because again, all of these books are very young for YA. Nowadays, I think we all know that YA is geared a lot more towards older teens or adults who are still reading YA, whereas back in the day, these all felt a lot younger, and there's barely any kissing, there wasn't much shipping either. But I think the authors and publishers eventually realised that it's adults and older teens who are actually buying these books for perhaps their children or younger siblings, so they latched on to that market. They also realised, I think, that creating shipping wars in the books, like Edward and Jacob or Damon and Stefan, was a very good way of marketing the book without doing much work. I think that's the reason why a lot of newer stuff actually has a lot of romance and ships. Back in the day, it didn't really. I thought, I was under the impression that it did a lot more, but it turns out a lot of YA from about a decade ago didn't really have much, and it all started coming around, I think, in 2012 to 2014. But that's something to talk about in another video. So out of all of these, the ones that I think would hold up and that people may enjoy, I realise I've already just told you this, but you know, I might as well do a summary. These 3, particularly Stolen, I think people would really enjoy this one now, as long as they're aware that it's got a very young voice for YA nowadays. Wicked Lovely was just a fun time if you're into YA paranormal. I don't think it's anything amazing, but it's good. Same with Fury. Actually, it's a really fast-paced book and I enjoyed it. If you're looking for like a 3 or 4 star read, just to kind of get sucked into something a little bit dark and intense, I think you might like this one. So while I don't necessarily recommend these books to my circle of friends because I don't think you'd enjoy them, if you're looking to read some old school YA and see what the vibe was back then, or if you have some younger readers in your life, then maybe you could pick these ones up. Although I have to say, there is much better YA for younger readers out nowadays, in my opinion. But if you were looking for something from the olden days, then pick something like this. So that was my long-winded booktube history video. I actually quite enjoyed doing this as a sit down, but like I said, I might do the next lot as a vlog style series. If you do want a sneak peek of what I'll be reading in the near future for this challenge, I'll probably wait until I've done another 8 to 10 books before I talk about them, but I do have 4 here that I want to check out soon. We have The Dark Divine, which is a lovely girl in the dress cover. Love it, it's stunning. And this is about werewolves, I think. We have Shadow Hills. I honestly have no idea what this one's about. The main character is called Persephone, so it's probably something to do with the whole Greek mythology retelling phase that YA went through a little while ago. Die For Me, which is YA paranormal. I spoke about this in my May TBR video because I'm going to be reading it in May. And we also have Silo, which I think is sci-fi. It says, if you're a fan of The Maze Runner and Alex Rider, you might want to pick up Silo, a fast-paced read and a huge cliffhanger. It's also part of a series, so I'm hoping I like this one actually. This sounds much more like my kind of thing nowadays, in that it's a sci-fi thriller. So maybe this one will hold up the most. I don't really have much hope for the other books. So yeah, thank you for watching. Let me know if you've got any comments on any of these books, if you remember reading any of them, and I'll speak to you all again soon. Bye.